Is it fair to call you the Queen of Queens?
Queen of Queens. I love
Can we
it.
go there?
Queen of Queens, Lord of Lords. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know if I'm the Queen of Queens, but I definitely have very fond memories of growing up in Queens and going outside all day and playing until the lights came on and my mom screaming down the block and just playing outside all the time and going to the corner store and buying pickles. Like, it was a thing. Pickles or a hero, which is like a sandwich. So very East Coast stuff that I'm talking about. If you're from New York, you get it. You get it.
If you know, you know.
If you know, you know.
What would you say is the most Queens thing about you?
Ooh, the most Queens thing about me, I feel like we're just like, I mean, I feel like we are hustlers in every good sense of the word. We are just like, just because you come from a certain part of the world doesn't mean you can't be successful. I feel like we're like super ambitious. Like LL Cool J lived around my neighborhood, Run DMC, like Ella Fitzgerald, like all these amazing icons who, you know, grew up around our area. And it's just like, oh my God, that's so cool. It's just like inspiration. It feels like the coolest things, like a lot of culture comes from Queens. And I'm proud of that legacy. And I'm proud of, I just feel like even my mom, there's so much grit. That's what I love about people from Queens. There's just grit and like people who work hard and, you know, find a way out of none.
I like that you said find a way. I found that from people from Queens.
Yeah, find a way. We like you just figure things out and we don't complain and we're just like, look, life is what it is and we got to just make it do what it do.
Is there anything that's Hollywood about you?
I wish. I feel like if I was more of an asshole, I'd be further along in my career. See, it feels like assholes or people who are just idiots sometimes just get away with so much. But
You're playing the long game, though.
I am, because that's just not in my DNA. Like, I am kind. And I always, when people are like, I show up to places and I'll have like one or two people with me and they're like, that's it? I'm like, who is coming? Like, why? For what? They're like, you don't understand. I'm like, are people nice to you? They're like, you don't understand. So I'm just like, I've just never been that person where I feel like I need to do the most to be acknowledged. I feel like I come in, I do the job, I talk, I connect, which is to me the most important, and then I leave and I go home to my family.
Yeah, you light up a room. Like, I really feel like you're a luminary.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Honestly, I just think it's like, I grew up treating people, like my mom was very much about kindness.
Yeah.
You treating people, no matter who you are. Like, my mom doesn't care. My mom has been on every set that I've been on.
Yeah.
She is the one everybody's coming around to be like, so, like, talking to her, and because she's just like a light. And I feel like I've gotten a little bit of that from her, where it's just like, I don't care who you are, I'm gonna talk to you, and I don't care where you are on a call sheet. I don't care. I'll talk to the catering people. I treat everybody good. Treat everybody good. That's the light I bring. And I want to make people feel like, wow, she's really looking at me when she's talking to me. I'm not passing over people, you know.
I love that you brought up your mom, because I was listening to some other interviews you did, and you said she's a correctional officer.
Yeah, she was. She's retired now.
That's for real.
That's for real.
For a woman to do that job is really difficult.
Well, also my mom was a housewife for 13 years, and she thought, like, I just want to raise my kids, and then her and my dad unfortunately divorced and life happened, and she's like, I have to get a job. And she started as a secretary there as a civilian, and then she like was making $13,000 a year, raising 5 kids at the time. Insane even for that time. And then she like tripled her salary, became a correctional officer, and even there she's like, I just remember giving people their dignity, and even if it was like, hey, yeah, you can take a longer shower, you want more food, you know, like just treating people with dignity. I think that's literally in my core. Yeah.
Do you remember being broke?
Yes. I think I remember being broke more than I think I'm the way I am, because I'm like, I never want to go back. And it's also like one of those things that it's one of those things where you're like, you're gonna make you're rubbing 2 coins together and you're gonna make something out of nothing. You're gonna figure it out. And so there's good things about it, because you're just like, you remember what it was like to be like, hey, I remember going to the corner store and asking them for credit, like being like, hey, my mom will get it back to you, like da-da-da. And my mom had a list and they're like, yeah, sure. Like those people were a lifesaver to my mom. And so I do remember being broke, and I do know like it continues to light my fire of like, not in like fear, but in a way of just like, I know that if I was all the way there, I know I can get somewhere else. If we made it during that time, everything else is cherry on top, right? And so, yeah, I do remember very
So
well.
you're taking the LIR, the Long Island Railroad, into Manhattan to go to these auditions.
Yeah, to go to classes. I didn't even know where I used to take the Long Island Railroad to go to Manhattan, and I would take these classes. I would find classes, and then I would go, and I literally had to start from scratch. I didn't know, backstage. I can look up open calls. This is a cattle call. Like I literally taught myself what to do, and I think the thing that did help was when I walked in a room, I was completely myself. And so people would be wanting to help me because they're like, there's something about you and I like you. What do you want? It was always, what do you want to do? What do you want? And it was like,
Did you know how to answer them?
I did. And because in a way, because I didn't know exactly, because I didn't know how I was going to get from A to B. I remember when I was in college there, I went to Marymount Manhattan College for a little while. It was a private college, very expensive at the time. I don't know why I should have went to like a community college in Manhattan. But anyway, that happened. And I remember going to a club one night with some friends. I was still underage. And the guy was like, if you take one drink, you will never be back in this club ever again. So I'll let you in and I'll continue to let you in, but you cannot drink until you become of age. And I'm like, okay. And we became friends. And one day he was like, Tika, what do you want to do? Beside coming here, having a good time, dancing, what do you want? And I was like, I want to be, and I said it quietly because I'm like, I never saw anybody become an actor. I was like, I want to be an actor. And he's like, okay. And he was like, the next week, he's like, meet me in this building downtown. I'm going to introduce you to an agent. And I said, really? He was like, really? He's like, you can be somebody. He's like, I know you can do it. And I met my first agent through somebody who just took to me.
Whoa.
Yeah, and
I
gives
didn't know
me
that
chills.
story.
Yeah, it gives me chills to this day because I'm like, for somebody to see you and be like, what do you want? And then have a connection to actually help create the path. That's incredible.
And is that the agent that got you the audition for the soap opera?
No, my first agent, I still remember her name. She's amazing. Shout out to Rita Mazzella from Jersey, very, like, I love her. I love Tika. She's great, and she was amazing. Literally talk like that. She's like, I'm Rita Mazzella. Shout out to you if you ever see this. Thank you, for real. But the crazy thing is she was sending me auditions. I was booking stuff. I was booking voiceovers. I was like right away I started like getting stuff, right?
Yeah.
Not where I can quit my job, like my everyday waitressing job, but where it was like the industry was telling me, you got something here. Like, you got something. And in every small way and every big way for me, like booking anything. And then I would go to these auditions and some of these casting assistants would be like, one main one came up to me. She goes, you need another agent. It's time. Like, after a while, she's like, you're ready for more. I'm gonna introduce you to this person. And that's where I went to CESD and got my other agent. And it was just like this, like, people just being like,
They just saw you.
they saw me.
That's such a blessing.
It's miraculous, actually. Because I'm like, when you look at I don't know if anybody sits back and looks at their lives and sees the dots, how you became to where you are, whether it's wherever it is. It can be big, small, wherever, but like the blessings, how it all connected and how you made it to where you are, it's insanity.
That's really beautiful.
Yeah.
I love this story that you told on the Breakfast Club about how you met this guy.
My crazy husband?
No.
Who?
I'm still early on in your career. You
Okay.
met this guy who was like, I got you. Like, you can audition.
Oh yeah, my friend. I
Can
won't
you
name
tell
him,
this
but
story? Because He had you for a week.
Oh my God. No, literally. So I was like dating. Back in the day, there were some good dudes, like really good. I mean, there's still good dudes, but I like connected with some really good dudes, and I had an amazing boyfriend, and he saw how hard I was working, like auditioning, but also I was working, and it was rough. Like the people who were the customers were very entitled sometimes, you know, and rough a bit. You know, I went through a lot there. And I literally one day, I think I got a phone call at this place I was working at, and they said something crazy to me. After a while, you only could take something so much. I literally hung up the phone, got out my seat, and walked out the back door and left and didn't tell anybody. That's how I quit my job.
Wow.
I was done. I was like, I don't have to be abused. Like, I just, and not like, it was just a little rough at times. I was like, I'm gonna walk out. I'm done. And I was crying. And, you know, it was like, I always say it was like a New York moment, crying down the streets of New York, just like, what else do you want from me, God? I'm doing everything. You know, I'm booking here and there, but I want to do this full time. Like, I'm just done. And I remember calling him and being like, I quit my job. He's like, okay, I got you. I got you. Go for this full force. Go audition, go to classes, go do your thing. Do what you were doing, but go full time. And I was like, this is the first time I ever felt like I had a real safety net for somebody to say, I got you. Don't worry about the bills. Like, I was like, what is this? What is this called? You know, it's like, yeah, I didn't understand.
Felt like you could breathe.
I felt like I could breathe. I felt like I could breathe. That is perfect. But then like a week later, I booked One Life to Live. So he was like, okay. Like,
he got off real well because he looked so good.
Yeah, he did. He did.
You didn't really have to pay for your bills.
I always tell him this story. I'm like, do you remember? Because we're still friends. And I'm like, do you remember when, you know, he's like, yeah, I think you owe me your career. You're like,
well, it might have been that energy that you brought in.
Because when you're not chasing something all the time, or you're not tight and you release and you can breathe.
Absolutely.
It's amazing what things can happen.
There's this quote that you said online that you spent your whole 20s and 30s trying not to get pregnant because you were so focused on your career.
Oh, yeah. No, I wasn't going to get pregnant in my 20s and 30s.
So to say 20s and 30s is interesting to me. That signals like you are nose to the grindstone.
Yeah, I was like, I wasn't even really thinking. It's weird. As a little girl, you're like I thought in high school, I'm like, I loved Kobe Bryant so much. And I was like, I'm going to marry Kobe Bryant. That's how much I loved him. I was like, I'm going to marry him. And I was like, Euphemia Bryant, you know, shout out to his whole family. Like, amen. Because I love him so much. And I just thought he was amazing. I grew up in like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant era. So those are my two favorite players. And
as a Chicagoan, we thank you for including Michael.
Yes. So I just knew like that's just not where I wanted to go at that moment. Like marriage was not my North Star.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was just like, great, we can be in a relationship. I wasn't like this, I need that to fulfill myself. I'm a careerist, and I was like, my career first, because that's what I really wanted. And when you start seeing like little good, you know, when you start seeing things happen, like little sparks, you're like, wait, I can do this. Like, I can do this, you know? And it's basically a validation of like the industry saying, yeah, there's something there. We keep hiring you for these jobs. And then when I got my One Life to Live gig, I was like, oh, I'm not stopping. Like, this is it. So I knew like, and also during that time, like even in my 30s, like now everybody's like, I have a baby. Oh my God, I'm going to walk around with my bra and my belly out.
It was different.
Girl, it was not like that. It was like, ooh, you better hide that. You know what I mean? Like, it was not something that was looked at. Like, I remember going into an audition pregnant. It was probably the most vulnerable I've ever been, knowing they looked at me like, absolutely not. You know what I mean? Like, it was just not going to happen.
I remember when Cardi B got pregnant like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm a self-proclaimed feminist, okay? And I thought, why would she do that? She's going to ruin her career.
I mean, even before that, what did Lauryn Hill say when she wrote that song Zion? You know,
Oh, wow.
unsure of what the balance held, I touched my belly overwhelmed. Like, and people told her, Lauren, baby, use your head and not your heart. Like, that's
Oh.
been the thing of like, and it doesn't even matter if you're, it's just the industry. It is not, it's like, are you gonna slow down the money? Are you gonna slow down the success? Like, you just got here. You know what I mean? Like, all those things. So you're scared, one, you're like, the industry's telling you no, absolutely not. And so this new evolution of like pregnancy and like I can work while I'm pregnant or I can, whatever while I'm pregnant is very new.
Yeah,
It's
thank
very
God.
new. Thank God. Thank God. I mean, even when I worked with Tyler Perry, like first of all, he basically guessed that I was pregnant. He was like, called me and nobody knew. And he's like, are you pregnant? I was like, yeah, how do you know? He's like, I don't know. I had a feeling. And then when I got to work and I started showing, he's like, all good. I'm going to shoot you, So it was like I was able to work and
That's awesome.
yeah, so supportive. It was very supportive.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
You guys became good friends from that show, huh?
Yeah. We became really good friends from haves and have-nots, and he's been super supportive of my career, and I can call him anytime. And obviously we're doing there was an announcement made of us doing a movie that I co-wrote and I'm producing and I'm starring in, and so we're actually going to shoot the back half of it in Italy. And so yeah, and he's like, let's bring this to Amazon or Netflix or whoever, and we did, and Amazon was like, yeah. So he's just been and he was like, I'll direct it. This is my first time directing without writing it, and he was excited to be supportive. And so again, and all those dots being connected just because.
His documentary was probably my favorite that I've seen in the last few years.
Yeah.
It's really special.
Yeah.
What is the magic of Tyler Perry from up close?
He believes when no one else does. He believes when it's not all put together. He takes a lot of people who not necessarily is being hired all the time, and he's like, I want to work with you. And then all of a sudden they're like they're out in the world. I mean, every actress that you can ever think of mostly has worked with him, especially like Black actresses. He was given jobs when other people weren't hiring, you know what I mean? And I think the magic of him is he really knows what hardship is. He's seen it up close and personal. And I think he roots for the underdog because that's how people have always seen him, as the underdog. Like, oh yeah, you're doing that cute little play. Okay, yeah, you can have your rights, sure. And then it's like he built up basically a whole ecosystem right under the noses of this industry. He's like the smallest, biggest giant that has ever been around in this industry that people have dismissed. And now it's like everybody's coming to him like, hey, can you do this? Hey, here's the deal. And it's like,
well, once he fixed Oprah's network,
owned.
I think everyone was like, oh,
yeah,
there's something going on.
Well, he was the first one to come and help, bring this show, their first show, to them. And
it was a huge hit.
And it was a huge hit. And I mean, I even cut out we were, no matter what show was on Tuesday nights, we were either number one or number two. And that was for a long time. And so I'm just super proud of something that people dismiss and sometimes overlook. But I'm like, that's not even what matters. What matters is actually just doing the work and being in the arena to fight and to have fun and play. Like all that other noise and stuff, great. It's all great, but that doesn't define my success ever.
Is the producing and writing part something that's always been in you?
Yeah, I think it's always like storytelling and like ideas.
But like if you get a script and you're hired as an actor, in the back of your mind, are you like, oh, I would do it this way, or I would change this, or I would, like, is that part of this want?
I think part of my producing and writing has come out of just necessity. In a lot of, because sometimes I don't get the things that I want or to be in, right? Like the role is not written for me, or they don't see me as that. And I'm like, oh, well, then I'm just going to write the thing, or I'm going to come up with the idea and I'm going to bring writers on to write it. And I'm going to get a bigger producer or whatever, or get financing to make it happen, or go pitch this thing to a studio. And usually, when I bet on myself, it usually works. And then I've walked into studios with a pitch and they've brought it in the room. And then again, that's a wink to me saying, you're always onto something. Like, you have it. You have the thing. Believe in it always. And that's why I say believe in your intuition, believe in your gut. When people are like, oh, so do you want to go through all these other steps? I'm like, no, I want to go right to the horse's mouth. Like, I want to talk right. I don't need all these other things. And sometimes you do need all these other pieces of the puzzle to make things happen. I just don't wait to make things happen. And I don't allow people's no's to be my guiding light ever. Like, I always—
They never get to you?
They got to me. I think when people say no or try to put up these kind of walls, every time I'm like, Tika, every time you listen to yourself, like that thing, it usually works out. So you just gotta walk around their wall and get to somebody else. You gotta just look for the yes, like that's it. And I look for the yes. I'm like, oh, okay, thank you when they say no, or they're like pushing back on me, whatever that looks like. And I'm like, oh, okay. I keep it cute, and then I'm like, and then you go and see it got made, or I'm in a deal with somebody. Like, I'm gonna get it. Trust me, I'm gonna get it done. Like, yeah.
You seem like a get it done type of person.
Because nothing's in this industry has ever been given to me. It's never been like, oh, nothing's ever been like, you did this one thing and now you're part of this thing. You know what I mean? Or
it's so rarely that.
But it feels like it because of social media. It looks like it. It's never that.
Even like really, really big celebrities, it's not that.
It's not that. And you'll be surprised that it's a lot of not that who are up there. You know, like a lot of the conversations in the room, even when you talk about value, like sometimes the way our industry talks about actresses, like, well, what's their value? What is a value add? You know, are they able to get it greenlit themselves? Like, is this one actress valuable enough? And it's like, you're just like, oof. Like, if you heard the way they talk, it's very, it's rough.
Yeah.
And it could make you feel like you're not worthy. But it really has nothing to do with you. It really doesn't. Like, if you really think, it's just like, oh, that's what you guys think. But over here, my audience has been a success. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not saying one specific actor or actress. I'm just saying that's the way they talk in the industry about value add. Well, what's the value?
Have you seen people shift or change the way they treat you after haves or have not?
I think it's after a collective of things, right? Like being part of, even when I did like Sparkle, which with Whitney Houston, or even if I did Gossip Girl, or I feel like it's a collective thing. Even with Sonic, you know, the franchise, yeah, it's huge. So when you get in rooms now, they're like, hey, or it's like my children, or your success breeds success, right? In any avenue. And so I think it's a collection of things. Or when I get something made like a movie and that I co-wrote and that I produced, it's like people start trusting you more. And so I think it's more of a trust thing, and like trusting that like they're gonna get their money back. You know what I mean? They're not gonna go over budget. Like, that's why I said none of the value stuff has anything to do with the actual person. It has to do with what somebody is afraid to let go of or not. To be like, are we gonna bet on this person? Are we gonna bet on this whole collective group? Like, what are we betting on, you know, to make our money back? So that's why I don't take my worth from the value of the system, that the way they talk about it.
I've heard you say in other interviews that you feel like you've been paid well. Have you dealt with other stuff behind the scenes? Have you dealt with like blind casting or race issues? Have you dealt with like misogynistic casting directors, or have you felt like you've pretty much...
I feel like I dodged a lot of bullets in that area. I've definitely heard, oh, this director's not going to look at dark-skinned women. Like, I was like, wait, what? You know what I mean? Like, I've heard that before, like once. And I was like, that's interesting. That's very interesting. And again, I'm like, I can't let the noise in, because then they're going to throw me off my game and I'm going to think it's me when it has nothing to do with me. you know? And so but other than that, I feel like I haven't really, to my face, dealt with things. I think the men who I've worked with have been awesome to me.
Cool to hear.
They've been supportive of me, and the women have been supportive. So I don't feel like I've had that experience, you know? And I don't know if it's just I don't know what it is, you know, just luck or whatever, or just, you know, like, we ain't gonna mess with her. You know, I don't know, but I feel
That queen's
grateful.
energy.
Yeah, it's like, what you want? What you talking about, Willis? You know? So, yeah. I mean, I definitely always, you know, you have people trying to see how far they can go, you know, in certain situations. And I think that's anybody. You're like, hey, they flirt a little bit, like, let me see where you're at. And you just, for me, I'm like, no, I'm not there. You know what I mean? And then
You've always been private. Like, there's nothing online about you dating somebody.
Yeah.
It's you and your husband. That's all you see. And I know you are out here, pre-husband.
Yeah, no, and look, I always say I'm going to tell my daughter, like, be out in the streets safely. Because I'm like, being in the streets is fun, especially when, like, the street lights are on and, like, you know, there's nice people walking around and you're like, ooh, you're cute. Like, I think my nature of, like, when I was in my 20s and 30s, like, you know, early 30s, it was just like, I wanted to have fun and I wanted to experience life. And so I dated, but I don't need to date in front, like, I don't need to tell everybody my business. I've never been that person.
Yeah.
You know, like, hey, this is who I'm dating, or this is who I'm hanging with, or whatever. Like, the only people that need to know is the people I'm with, you know? And so it's just like, it was fun. And I stayed friends, you know, and I'm just not that girl. I don't need everybody to know my business, because then when you let everybody know your business, you better be ready for them to be in your business.
All the opinions.
All of them. And yeah.
Well, okay, so when you meet your husband, you're not really looking for anything.
Well, at that point, I was like dating with the intention of I'm ready to.
You were?
Yes. At that point, I was like, I'm dating with the intention of like, what does forever look like with somebody?
So you did want that.
I did eventually.
Oh,
it came around. I
interesting.
always wanted it, but it was never at the forefront of my life. It wasn't like, I'm ready. I want to get married. I want to have a baby. And this is what I want in my life. That wasn't it. It was there, but it was like later.
Got it.
We'll do it later. It's not that I never wanted it. It's just, it wasn't priority. But then as you get older, you're like, I do want a kid. Who would be a good partner for that, right? Like, who would be... And so I started dating with intentions of like, would he be a good dad? No, he wouldn't be a good dad.
Were you nervous about dating an actor?
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're crazy. I'm crazy. I know that. Like, I literally...
What type of crazy are you?
I just know I'm like... I deal with like control, you know?
Yeah.
I deal with like... I like being quiet in my house.
Okay.
Like, literally, I don't
That's
wanna,
not crazy.
it can be to somebody who wants to talk to you.
Maybe.
You know, where you're like, hey, how are you feeling? I'm like, I'm feeling the same way I was feeling about 2 hours ago.
So when I first moved to LA, I dated an actor.
Yeah.
Granted, he was on the CW, so
Yeah.
I don't know if we could call it a success.
Yeah.
But I have never felt so alarmed in my life. And particularly, it's when they're not working.
Oh,
That's when the crazy comes out.
because you're like, I'm not working. What does that mean about me? Like, you get insecure. Like, all those things start happening.
Yeah.
And if you're not an actor and you're with that, you're like, okay, where's the door? Because it's like, it can
So
be
do you feel
neurotic.
like you understand each other?
We totally understand
That's cool.
Oh my God, he totally understands me. Like, that's the great thing.
Yeah.
And I was telling you earlier before we started, like, I used to wonder, like, why? Because I always, like, actors are always breaking up. Like, why are they even going after each other? It's because they understand each other and they understand all the things that come along with it. And for me, also, all the things that come along with it can be a lot. Like, you know, I get really nervous on a carpet. Like, my heart starts beating. I get really, like, anxious. And
But you kill a carpet.
girl, thank you. But inside, I'm like,
Those Getty images say something else. They tell a different story.
I try to put on my face, and I'm
You
like,
would never know.
you would never know. But I get really anxious, and but there's just
feeling.
like little neurotic things that I do, and that I'm like, I literally, when my husband asked me to marry him, I'm like, are you sure? I'm nuts. And he's like, I know. So I was like, okay, cool.
Were you a wedding person? Because you got married in Cabo. Your photos were so beautiful.
Thank you. I think I had an idea of like, oh, I just want it to be a beautiful day that I really remember. And so, yeah, but I wasn't the person who's always, I mean, I did have a few magazines that were from back in the day that I was like, oh, one day, but was I like looking at it all the time? No. But I did have an idea of like what I wanted.
Did you guys write your own vows?
We did.
There's this thing going around the internet right now about how people are doing silent vows because they want them to be private.
Oh, like how do they do it?
Like they just do it to each other earlier in the day, or like they don't really do the vows. They don't want everyone to hear them.
So people are just sitting there quiet?
Yeah.
We're just silent?
But I come to a wedding for the vows. I want to know how you feel about each other.
And I want to know what. Okay. We're holding y'all both accountable. Like, that's the point, right? Like, it's like,
what are our promises?
What are our promises? Because when we were doing our vows, I had friends like, okay, yes, like, you let the church say amen,
Have you guys kept them?
I mean, so far, so good. Yes.
Great.
So far, I mean, I'm sure I haven't. I'm sure, like, going to bed angry, like,
It happens.
Girl, it happens. But, like, we always repair and come back to each other.
What's the most fun you've ever had working on a project?
Ooh, the most fun? Sonic is one of the most fun because it was like so not stressful. I kept thinking like, are we working? Because it was just fun. Like the director, I feel like it always starts from the top. And if you're a director, shout out to Jeff Fowler, they just make life easy for you. And I don't know, it was just such a perfect experience, I have to say. But also my friend, Richard Tanny, who I worked with on Southside with You when I played a young Michelle Obama. That was probably so fun. Like, that was like one of the most fun sets. It was an indie film, but it was like just so, everybody got along. It was just cool. It was chill.
I want to ask you about that project because I think actors do this incredible thing. It's like a magic act almost because you're bringing your whole self and you're simultaneously being a completely different person.
Yes.
And when I've interviewed people, I hear a lot of times that you kind of take pieces of that character with you. Did you take pieces of Michelle with you at all?
I feel like, I was talking like her for a little bit, like, cause she does like, she puts her tongue to her teeth in front and there's like a certain, she does, I wasn't trying to like totally be exactly like her, but I wanted to have essence of her. But there is such a like, there's this pride, in who she is, and I think I've had that, but like the fact that she kind of pushed back on Brock a little bit, like I'm not sure. Like, yeah, everybody thinks you're a hot shot, but I don't know. Like it was also validation, like I have a choice in this matter about all the things, right? And so it was probably the essence of like this pride she had in her family. No matter how much money they had, it didn't matter. There was this pride of like family and yourself and how smart you were. And it wasn't dependent on another person, but the other person was just additive to that. So I think I love that. And I kind of took that from that or added it even more so to who I am.
Just from talking to you now, it sounds like you always had that. Maybe it was just like a reminder.
Yes, a reminder.
You've been in so many different projects. Yeah. I didn't realize soap opera, live action, drama, comedy. You've done podcasting.
Yeah.
You've done a children's podcast,
yes.
which was really cool. What do you think the boldest choice you ever made was? Did you ever think of one and you were like, okay, this might not work, but I'm doing it anyways?
Yeah, it's something that I'm doing now. I'm building up my company, Fort Sumpter, and we are funding our kids' podcast, Adventures of Curiosity Cove, which is on every platform right now. My book, I got it from my mama, which is from the series Ella the Curious, that's her name, on Adventures of Curiosity Cove. And then I'm going to be coming out with products soon. And so you'll hear
Tika!
more. I know, you'll hear more about it, but it's super scary, but it's also something I really believe in. And
Don't leave me hanging.
I know it's
Can you tell me what what field or
yeah,
industry it's in?
it's for mothers, and it's an incredible product that I have incredible manufacturing partners that I believe in this product so much, and
Wow.
it's a product for moms and baby.
Femia.
Yeah, it's a dual product. It's a product, one-stop shop product.
That's
you know,
cool.
and
It's not easy to make a product.
no, and so I'm really excited, and I'm going to a trade show, and I'm doing all the things, and I'm putting the money behind it, and it's scary. But it's also like validating when I hear people within the industry, not acting, it's totally separate from that, say, oh, this is good. We like this, or we want you to be part of this. So I'm excited, and I'll come back once it's out and
Please.
once I make the announcement about it. But yeah, it's one of the boldest choices I've ever made, which makes it scary. But also sometimes when you do scary stuff, it's like you got to challenge yourself, and the worst that can happen is it doesn't work, and that's okay too. But I got to try. If I don't, then I'm gonna look back at my life and be like, why didn't I try? You know?
For the character Ella Curious, Ella is your daughter.
Yeah.
How old is she now?
She's 8.
She's 8. Okay. So I was really interested that you named her Ella Curious.
Ella the Curious.
Ella the Curious.
Yeah.
What has curiosity brought to your life? Like, why did you name her
Ella the Curious.
Excuse me. Yeah.
Well, my daughter Ella is one of the most curious people I know. Like, she really wants to understand why, you know. And I think growing up, it was kind of like you're to be seen and not heard. And I didn't really have a voice. And a young person without a voice becomes an adult without a voice. And I had to find that voice in my young 20s because I felt like a mute sometimes. Like, as strong as I am right now, I didn't always know my feelings. Even when I was dating people, I didn't know like how to be. I felt so stagnant and so like restricted. And my daughter is opposite of that. She wants to know all the things. She wants to understand the choices that I'm telling her to do, why. And she's interested in science, and she's like good at math, and she's like, you know, we're talking about all the things, and I'm like, Ella the Curious, someone who is just curious about the world and makes a lot of mistakes, but questions all the things, and it's like a little coming of age for a 3rd grader, you know, story. And it's also like emotional intelligence. It's being able to ask questions or being able to make mistakes and understand why. And then being able to have experiences in the world as a young kid, right?
Yeah.
And validating their voice. And so that's basically why I named her Ella the Curious.
I felt really connected to that name. I always say charmed are the curious, for they shall have adventure.
Ooh, I
And
love that.
Curiosity has been the guiding light in my life.
Yeah.
And it sounds like when I was trying to research and connect the dots of your career, it sounds like it's at the core of what you've been wanting to. Like, you wanted to know how things felt, what they were like. You just wanted the experiences, it seemed. Like you were collecting them
Really
almost.
good. I think I didn't acknowledge my curiosity because I was so focused on trying not to struggle. So I didn't even know I was being curious. I just knew I was trying to survive and make it. Yeah. But now that you're saying it, it makes me feel like I was curious to know, can I do this? What is this like? What would it be like to just walk in the door and try? What would it be like to knock on a casting director's door and like, I already auditioned and they said no because they wanted curly hair, and I came back and had semi-curly hair, and they were like, oh my God, bless her heart. But I still did it anyway. You know, like, just like, what if so yeah, you made me realize like I was curious, but I didn't call it that. I just was so focused on something else and trying to figure it out. Yeah.
I think it's cool that you saw it in your daughter, but as I was connecting the dots, I really saw it in you.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess because I see her, she has much more agency than I did at 8, you know, because of the world, the way that I'm raising her a little bit differently. And again, that goes back to the book of like, I got it from my mom. It's this idea of like, the little Ella the Curious realized, and she got all these amazing things from her mom. She's trying to be exactly like her mom. Her mom sprays perfume. She sprays her dream spray. Her mom does her own hair. She tries to do her hair like her mom. But then one day her mom basically like yells at her, and she's like, whoa. And she goes and mirrors that same thing at school and yells at somebody else. And mom comes to school to pick her up and she's like, well, where'd you get that from? And she's like, I got it from you, mama. And it's this idea of like, we get all these amazing things from our parents, but we also get the challenging things. But it's also about like the repair of parenting and saying, I'm sorry, and apologizing. And so now Ella the Curious can go and continue to be curious, but also apologize when she's wrong. So, yeah.
I thought it was so interesting that you focused on apology. I haven't really heard a children's book that did that. And I think a lot of parents are scared to apologize to their kids.
Yes. Even again, I'm like, apology. My mom to this day is like, apologize for what? I'm like, girl, bye. You know?
Yeah, I'm not sure I've ever gotten an apology.
Yeah, no, I don't think any of us did. It's like, girl, you better go outside. You know what I mean? Like, no. And so, yeah, I just wanted to write about something that I was personally going through.
Yeah.
And knowing that so many people are raising their kids differently, and that you don't have to be allergic to apologies. You're not their parent because you apologize. And nor do they look at you like, ooh, I got one up on my mama. You know, no, they're mirroring intelligence, emotional intelligence when you're wrong, to say, I'm sorry. Like, why do we have all these adults looking at us like we're looking at each other like, I ain't apologizing. Well, maybe this next generation will be different, you know? And I think a lot of people are learning that about themselves. Like, I don't lose anything. I'm actually gaining peace for myself by saying I'm sorry to you for something I hurt you for. Yeah.
You said that what excites me most is how much I'm learning about myself in the process of parenting. It's like Ella holds up a mirror to me and challenges me in ways I didn't expect. Someone just told me that parenting is really about reparenting yourself.
Yes.
Have you been confronted with stuff?
All day. Like, all the time.
So hard.
It's when you're confronted so much, it becomes easier. You're like, oh, yeah, cool. And the other thing is, I remember Ella telling me one day, because we were homeschooling her for 1 year.
Yeah.
And she was like, I was teaching her something, and I was reading it from the book, and she's like, you don't really know much about that, right? Do you? And I was like, she's like,
shade.
Yeah, she was like, you don't really know much. You're reading that, aren't you? And I was like, I am reading it. I don't know much about that one, but I do know about this one. But I was like, and once I was like, I don't know everything. Your mom does not have every answer for you.
Yeah.
That's okay. None of us have all the answers, but I'm confronted all the time by my child. And she's like, Mom, you cut me off again. Can I finish my sentence?
Whoa.
Yeah.
Talk about EQ, Ella.
And I'm like inside, like, what? Like, my mom is like, girl, and I'm like, oh, no, don't listen. You know what I mean? But like,
Yeah.
I am raising a confident child who can stand up for herself in a very respectful way, but who has a voice. And I think because I didn't have a voice for so long, that is something that is a goal of mine for my child. So I'm grateful that I'm like, okay, cool. But then when I look at her and I'm like, okay, you cross it. And she's like, okay, I got it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a good balance. It's not where she's disrespectful. But I just think kids nowadays we're raising them emotionally more intelligent. And I'm very excited about that.
I know everybody like makes fun of the younger generation, but when I see them, I'm like, oh, I have hope. I think things are getting better.
I do too.
Right?
I think they're just more intentional about stuff. You know what I mean? And
they know more.
I think every generation has their good stuff and then their challenging stuff where you're like, girl, get it together. You know what I mean? Or you're like, gosh, I should really take care of myself like that. You know what I mean? I think every generation has that.
What qualities in Ella bring you the most pride?
Oof. Oh, that's good. I think the thing that brings me most pride is that she stands up for herself. I love that about her. When she's afraid of something, she says, I'm afraid. And when she's not, like she's doing Muay Thai and she never would get in the ring. She's like, I will never go in there because you have to like fight other girls. And now she's
That's cool.
Yeah, now she's like, I'm ready. I'm excited. And she's in there like 3 times every time she goes, like ready to fight, like go. And I'm like, I can see her confidence grow. And to see somebody say, I'm not going to do that, to being like, oh yeah, no, are we going to Muay Thai today? And I just feel like she's a confident kid. And I'm excited that she stands up for herself.
Has having a daughter changed your relationship with your mom?
Oh, that's good.
I'm coming from a genuine curiosity because I don't have kids yet.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if maybe I'll have more empathy.
Yeah. You realize that the person you still, like my mom is my everything. She drives me crazy sometimes, but that's my girl. But you do realize like the pedestal you've put somebody on for so long, you realize there's dents in it. And they're not perfect because they were never meant to be perfect. They're just meant to protect you and to teach you and to guide you. They just are not perfection. And I think I've learned that I don't have to be perfect. I just have to protect my child and teach her and love her and make sure she is a good human, like for the world. And so I think that's how it's made me like realize like, oh, I don't have to be this thing that I thought I had to. I have to be like this perfect mom and like get everything right about parenting. I'm like, I am so much more easier and gentle with my own self. And when I make a mistake, again, apologizing. But like when you don't have this standard of like, I gotta be all these things, you can let go a little bit more. And I think I give my mom a little bit more grace now.
That's a good word.
Grace.
Does Ella think it's so cool that she has a podcast and a book?
Oh, she loves it. She loves it. She's like, when I first opened the box to the samples of the book, she's like, the first thing she said to me was, because she knows how hard I work. Yeah. She's like, Mama, you did it. I know, it makes me want to cry, but I'm not going to cry.
Oh my God.
She goes, she said, I'm sorry. She's like, Mama, you did it. You did it, Mama. And I was like, I didn't sell anything yet. But the fact that my daughter validated me and just saw that, I don't know, it just made me like, I did do it, So yeah, sorry.
Don't be sorry. That's so unbelievable for an 8-year-old.
Yeah, when she said it, I just started tearing up, and she loves when I cry. She's like, you're crying? I'm like, leave me alone. She's like, when she said that, I was just like, wow, she sees me. I work really hard, and she sees it. So yeah.
It's so cool. My mom's gonna laugh hearing this because she listens to all the podcasts.
Yeah.
She says I quote her too much. But there's this quote that I love that she said, lessons are caught, not taught.
Oof.
And I think Ella's just seeing you is so powerful.
Lessons are caught, not taught. I love that.
Me too.
I love that.
Did motherhood change the way you work?
I think I work harder. I think I work harder than I've ever worked because I just want my daughter to see that you really can do whatever you want. Like you really can. You can be whoever you want. I've taught her since she can talk. I can do anything, and she finishes it. I put my mind to every day before she walked out the door. I can do anything. I put my mind to. So now I'm like, I can do anything. I put my mind to, and I'm like, I just want her to know it because I feel like I need to fill her up as much as possible because don't worry, the world will try to rip you down, but I just need to keep pouring that water in, growing her. And so, yeah.
Why did you choose that affirmation for her?
Because it's true. Because I had an idea of what my career could be, what I can be, without even seeing someone next to me. I didn't know that this can really happen. You watch TV and you're like, wow, how do you even get it? How? And I feel like I'm a testament to like that. I can do anything I put my mind to. I literally did that. You did it, Mama. You did it.
You worked with like Jim Carrey's known for his manifestation.
Yes.
Did you have that too? Did you visualize stuff? Or did you do it
Not
without even knowing it?
knowingly. I remember doing, like, pulling magazine pictures out and putting it on boards.
Yeah.
But I didn't know it was called manifestation. First of all, I was raised in church. It was like, manifesting what? It was like, Jesus, you know? Like, so, but I just knew if I wrote stuff down, in my mind, I was like, if I just write this stuff down, I can, like, cross it off a list. Like, I can figure it out. It was like how I used to pay my bills, you know? Like, when I had no money, I was like, these are the bills I have to pay. I gotta cross these off. And when I could see it, it's like, okay, I could do it. I can do it. And that's how I've always been. So now when people are like, oh, manifesting, I really believe you can, what is that saying? You are what you think you are. Mm-hmm. Whether it's good or bad, you are what you think you literally are. And so me searing that into her brain is so important. Because I need you to know that your thoughts are really powerful, you know?
I remember watching an episode of Oprah, and Will Smith had just been paid like $40 million for a movie. And he was telling Oprah how he was like, I'm so scared. I'm still gonna, like, I don't know where my next meal's coming from. Like, I feel the trauma of it. Do you feel that? Because I kind of feel like it's visceral for you the way you're talking about it.
Oh, every day.
Yeah.
I work and I pursue things as if I just started yesterday. Like, there's, even if you don't see it on social, like, I don't post everything. I don't post all the things. Because I do believe in holding things back. Everything's not for everybody yet to see. It doesn't need to be revealed yet. But what I do know is I work like I'm hungry. That's how I work. And I've always been that way.
Yeah.
Because I am still hungry and there's so much I want to do. There's so much more for me to do. Yeah.
I think so too. I think you're just scratching the surface.
I'm just scratching it. I like it. Yeah.
My last question is a weird question to end on, but I interviewed Tembi Locke, who wrote From Scratch. Did you see that?
Yes.
And she married an Italian man.
Yes.
You married an Italian, right? Or is he?
His family is from Italy. Some of his family, well, they're American, but his grandfather is from Italy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Italian heritage.
Heritage, yeah.
She said something so interesting to me that I've been trying to understand and piece together since. She said every time you're in a cross-cultural relationship, there's beauty and grief.
Oof.
And grief meaning that that person can never fully understand you. They can't understand certain values, certain traditions.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of differences that are really fun and interesting that you get that other people don't.
Yes.
Have you felt any of that?
My husband just grew up different than me, right? Like, he came from a very small town. His family, like, his dad built his house with his own hands.
Whoa.
His mom and dad have been together for 40 years. They're very like, are you hungry? Like, when we go to their house, it's like, I just don't do anything. Like, literally. And she's like, what do you need? Like, it's very that, like, and at first I didn't understand it. I was like, I don't need anything. Like, what? But they just care. Like, they cared so much for me. And not that my family didn't care. They're just a little softer around the edges, Like, I'm a little rough around the edges and they were a little softer. But I don't know if culturally, I think some things he didn't understand come into, I think both of us, when you're in love and you're like, oh, everything's going to be great. And then something happens in life and you're like, you don't get it. You don't get me. But the great thing is that's where empathy comes in. And that's where he can go out and be more empathetic towards somebody else, right? Like, who comes from my kind of culture.
Yeah.
But I think it's been good in all those senses, though. It hasn't been like, you never will get me. You don't understand me. It's like, oh, wow, I didn't know that's what you went through. Or
Sounds like more communication.
More communication, more empathy, more.
That's cool.
Yeah, more empathy. And I've grabbed things from his family where I'm like, God, I love the way your parents are. Like, they're just like a real team.
Yeah.
And their life, they're not like, it's not this big crazy life. It's but they love it. And they're so comfortable. They're like a comforter, And I'm like, that's enough. Like, not everybody wants to be a gazillionaire or needs to be. They're just like, I'm happy with the home we have and our friends, you know, and it's enough. It's enough. And that's what I love that, you know. For me, I always feel like grasping, like, I don't know, what isn't, like, because I remember not having enough too.
Yeah. It's a strange tightrope to walk because
Oh my God.
you want to have the guts to want more,
Yes.
to ask for more,
Yes.
and be grateful and happy with
Yes.
what you have. It's
It's
a never
such
ending.
one minute you're like, oh, I'm so satisfied, I'm fine. But I want all these other things. I want to, and I don't even think for me it's about
It's your curiosity.
it's the curiosity. I don't know. I don't think it's even about the money necessarily.
No.
It's about like, one, can I do it? And then when you do it, you're like, whoa, I want to do more, you know? And that's the curiosity, like you said.
Yeah. You've been playing a lifelong what if game with yourself.
I love that. Yes, I have.
Yeah.
What if?
What if?
What if? I love that.
Okay, rapid fire.
Okay.
We celebrate public achievements all the time, but what is a quiet, private victory? Something that no one would know about, but that you hold close to your heart. And I know you're a private girl. I'm asking you to open up.
Yeah. I think my quiet victory is knowing that when I had a baby, I needed a therapist. And I was like, not only I needed a therapist, my husband and I, we needed to go to, I was like, I know that something's wrong with you. Nothing's wrong with me.
I'm perfect.
I'm perfect. But I knew I did not want to transfer
The stuff.
the baggage to my daughter. I knew something I know stuff was going on inside. Didn't know pinpoint. But I think my quiet victory is saying I need help. We need help for her as well as ourselves, and actually getting the help. To me, that's a quiet victory.
That's a big victory.
Yeah, it's huge.
Temptation you try the hardest to resist.
I would say I don't really resist temptation other than like,
Ooh, I like that answer.
yeah, I'm like, I mean, other than like within reason. But like I eat what I'm like, if I want to eat the thing, I eat the thing. If I want to go to the place, I go to the place. Not anywhere crazy or anything, but like I don't really have a thing where I'm like tempted and being like, ooh, it's a secretive temptation. You know, it's like, it's more just like, I do what I want. I'm grown. I don't know if there's a real temptation.
That's so good.
Yeah.
That's a great place to be.
Yeah.
What's something you've done for love or friendship that felt absolutely wild at the time?
What felt wild at the time, I was in a long distance relationship with somebody in Costa Rica for like 3.5 years.
Whoa.
And I would go for like a month at a time, and just like, I thought I would move there. Yeah, and being younger, you're like, why not? I met him one night dancing, and I was like, spending New Year. I like extended my trip. I'm like, do I have to work? My friend's like, no. I'm like, I'm staying, and like just stayed.
It's far from LA. It's not an easy plane.
No,
ride.
and I was living in New York at the time.
Oh, it's a little better.
It's a little better, but still like being in another country and
Yeah.
falling in love with somebody and being like, I'm gonna stay in Costa Rica. Like I had that like love story. Like it was so crazy.
That's
but I
fun.
did it. It was so fun. It was fun. I was like surfing and eating good and like doing all the things and trying to learn Spanish and like all the things. And I'm just like, I'm so glad I had that experience. Like that's a cool life experience.
That is curiosity, Tika.
Girl.
A curious person is not, or a not curious person is not doing that.
Oh, my mom was like, what? Yeah.
Something every woman should try once.
Ooh. Every woman should try once.
Yeah.
Going to another country and falling in love. Like, and just like dancing to the break of day, like letting go safely, obviously. But like, I just remember dancing all night till the sun came up and like, just like being alive and loose and just like free. Just like go, run toward it and like have a good time.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
What's a book that you've read that you think everybody should read? Something that really like changed your heart or your mind?
There's 2 books. There's one called Lost Focus, which is like talking about how phones and stuff have kind of kind of like taken us away from like real connection and how they've affected our minds. I really like that because it's like real world experts talking about it, but in a very layman term way where I'm like, okay, it was interesting to me. Also, just for children. But also there's this book called Ida in Love and in Trouble. And it's this coming of age story, historical kind of novel based on Ida B. Wells. And it's told in such a way that makes her so I've been obsessed with Ida B. Wells for a minute. And, you know, while she was an activist in terms of like for Black people, in terms of like, she was like a journalist and she owned a newspaper and she kind of raised the flag on lynchings and all that. She was also popular with the men loved her and like the love letters and like she lived life. She loved the theater. And it's a story of like the essence of like her life, like getting inside, not just like the activist part, but how she got there. But it tells a full story of her, who she is just as a woman in those times and like how she loved to buy clothes and sometimes she couldn't afford it, but she's like, I'm gonna like owe this person this money and buy this hat. But like it just makes her, humanizes her. And I just love this book so much. It's a New York Times bestseller, but it's called Ida in Love and in Trouble because she was also
a cool one to bring to light.
I know. Yes. Yeah. So she just had a voice and it was like, it's like the book, like she finds her voice in different various ways, but especially during that time when it was different for women. And so I just enjoyed it so much. You know, one of those books you keep putting it down because you don't want to finish it.
Yes.
Because you're like, oh, I just don't want it to be over, you know? And so it was one of those books.
Those are rare and so special. You want to live in that world.
It's rare and so special. That's perfect.
Okay, last question. Pick up the deck if you may.
Yes.
And whichever card calls you.
Okay. Okay. My daughter hates when I do all this. She's like,
I love it.
She's like, enough, Mom. Come on, let's play Uno.
I'm waiting for you to shuffle.
Yeah, I was gonna do all that, but I was like, Ella's in my head. Like, girl, can we play Old Maid or Uno? I'm like, oh yeah.
So much.
This is awesome.
Oh,
this is yours. Okay, pretty smart.
Well, that's how I'm like, I made one card game. Like, it's so hard to make a product, whatever you're doing. I'm like,
girl, you know how, you know. Oof. Okay, favorite story about an ancestor.
oh, whoa.
Jeez.
That's a really hard question. No one's ever picked that one.
So I'm really into finding my ancestors.
You are?
Yeah. And I found them, like my grandma is from North Carolina, my great-grandma, North Carolina, her mom, North Carolina. And I actually found a woman who is also my ancestor, related through my mom's side. It's like I found her name is Kitty. And she comes from a woman who lived to be 80 years old during that time, was sold on the slave block at 13 years old, her mom, and had Kitty. And Kitty looks like my daughter. She wears glasses like my daughter. She's the same complexion as my daughter. Her hair was like down on her butt like my daughter. And when I saw the picture of her, I was like, I sent it to my mom. I go, who does this look like? She goes, Ella. And so it was just so crazy, but they were farmers and hard workers, and you know, obviously they were enslaved for a while until they weren't. But to find that connection, I'm like, my grit, I know where it comes from, and but just to find someone who resembles my child, I'm like, oh, you're special, Elle. You're really special. So yeah,
I'm so glad you got that card.
Me too.
That's so cool.
Me too.
Do you feel like Euphemia or do you feel like Tika?
I felt like Tika when I was younger.
Yeah.
Because I did not want anybody to say my name because they always said it like terribly. It was like, Eukanuba, like Euphoria. What? I'm like, no, don't say it. Like the teacher will be like, I'm like, Tika. Just say Tika.
With some respect.
Yeah, well, because you're just like, also you're like embarrassed as a kid. It's such a big name. And you're just like, it's not the normal, it's not Jennifer or, you know, JoJo. It's none of that. It's like, oh my gosh, like, and you don't even say it correctly and whatever, which is fine. But I feel like Euphemia now. Like my dad picked that name out for me, and it's a goddess and a martyr in Greek, and she's very powerful. And now I feel like Euphemia. Like I feel like, oh yeah, I'm all of that. I consume the whole name.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Like Tika found her voice and now she's Euphemia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with everybody calling me Tika, but I feel more Euphemia. You know, it's such a beautiful name, and it's like the what's behind it is even more extraordinary. And I'm like, you know, all my life, it's like, how did my dad know? Like, you know, I'm not saying I'm a martyr or anything, but like, I'm just saying, like, I think there's power in names.
I do too.
You know, I think there's real power in names.
Does anybody call you that?
Euphemia?
Yeah.
No.
Wow.
It's like my own.
It's for you.
Yeah, it's my own.
Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, thank you. This was awesome.
This is so wonderful.
Thank you. Yeah. Oh, and you can pre-order now. It comes out in April, and I'll be doing a book tour. But yeah,
You're gonna do a book tour?
I'm gonna do a book tour.
Where are you headed?
I
love
think
the cover.
We're still, thank
So
you.
fun.
Isn't it good?
Yeah.
We're still working it out, but there'll be like one in March. So I'm really excited about it. But I'll let you guys know.
Did you pick your illustrator?
I did. I've been
She's
working
really
with her for
good.
a while. She's so good.